Hey, welcome to Jason FinTips. I'm Jason and I'm going to be your host today. We are going to be talking about retirement planning basics for content creators. So let's get into it. But before we get into it, a quick thing we need to do is dive in and do a quick little disclaimer. The content shared during this video is provided for general education and entertainment and informational purposes only. It is not financial, investment, tax, legal, insurance, political, or medical advice. No personal recommendations are being made. Nothing presented should be interpreted as a solicitation, endorsement, or guarantee of results. Although I do hold a CFP, ChFC, and CLU designations as of 2025, I'm not acting as a financial advisor, fiduciary, tax professional, or legal representative through this platform. All examples, case studies, and scenarios are hypothetical and intended to illustrate financial principles only. Viewing and engaging this video does not create an advisor-client, a fiduciary, or client-client or client-client relationships. Always consult your own licensed financial professional for advice specific to your individual needs. Our full legal disclaimer can be found at jasonfintips.com/legal. And with that, let's dive into oh, I would have to do that. Financial planning basics for content creators. Well, I think a lot of people get as a financial content creator, a lot of actually your own independent business owner and taking care of your own retirement and a lot of this other things. If you're a 1099 employee or you work off of income, how do you plan and build your own retirement? If you're working for a company that someone's put together a retirement package between a 401k, a defined benefit plan, your health insurance. So what you got to do as a content creator, not only do you have to be a business owner, but you also have to take care of your own retirement planning needs. And so you're going to have to take that extra step to start making sure that you understand some of the basics on how to plan for your own retirement. So why retirement planning is for content creators? Content creators can be one of the most rewarding careers. You set your own hours, schedule, earn income in your passion, and you build a brand that connects with your audience around the world. But this freedom comes with a few challenges. There's probably no employer retirement plan. There's no automatic 401k plan match. There's no pension. There's probably no health insurance if you're in the United States. So if you're a YouTuber, OnlyFans creator, podcast, Twitch streamer, or freelance writer, your financial future depends on you making choices with today with intentional planning. The years of hard work you put into your content may transform into long-term financial stability. This guide focuses on retirement planning basics every content creator needs to know, from the types of savings accounts to strategies for managing irregular income and taxes. First, what is retirement planning basics? At its core, it's how are you going to continue to pay yourself when you're no longer working or creating or able to work and create. Um, Think of this as savings for snowballing down the hill. Even modest, consistent contributions can grow into substantial wealth. For example, saving just as little as $200 per month, starting at 25, could grow over $500,000 by retirement, assuming a 7% average rate of return. But we do need to take inflation into account in that. Tax advantage retirement accounts. How are you going to use accounts like these? Are accounts that you can, and this is in the United States, that are put together to be able to save for retirement. And it's a tax advantage, which means you get to put income into these accounts pre-tax dollars. So you get to take a tax deduction for them and then they grow into the account. And then when you pull that money out in retirement, it's taxed as ordinary income. So you actually technically receive it to the government. When you actually retire, you pull it out of that little wrapper that it's been in. So retirement accounts are things like your IRAs, SEP IRAs, solo 401ks, and they allow your money to grow tax deferred by reducing or delaying your taxes. And this can also go into, we have things like Roth accounts, but that's where accounts where they get to go tax free. So that comes into some tax planning. But basically, what we're doing is saying, what type of account that can you have that can hold stocks, bonds, mutual funds, or whatever inside the retirement account that is going to be able to grow tax-free and have some protections that you can then take and use in retirement to make distributions to pay you when you can no longer work or create. Just as you wouldn't put all your creative energy into one platform, you shouldn't put all your money in one nest eggs. And that's something like a mix of stocks, bonds, portfolios with asset allocation, following like modern portfolio theory, something that can help you grow. The goal is to build a nest egg that can replace your income 20 to 30 years for in your lifestyle for 20 to 30 years in retirement. But content creators actually have a lot of unique challenges. There's financial hurdles. You're not doing a 9 to 5 work. There's no one else actually putting these plans together for you. So you are actually going to have to intentionally go out and seek out retirement planning. It's kind of a necessity to take care of your own retirement plan because no one else is doing it for you. You also have a regular income, most likely. That's one month you can handle a big sponsor. You can have a revenue dip another month. So it's kind of a feast or famine cycle that goes into some of the budgeting to say, how do you manage all this? A solution? Are you going to have some automatic contributions in good months? Do you set extra months aside? You also have no employer sponsor plans. So a lot of traditional employees often have what's called a 401k plan, and the company that you put in, let's say 3%, so you put in 3% of your salary, your company matches. But as a content creator, you're both the employee and the employer. So you have to open and manage your own retirement accounts. The good news is you can also put more money away in things like a solo 401k that gives you higher contribution limits than most workplace plans. There's more flexibility in some of these. There's also some different types of plans. You also are going to be responsible for self-employment taxes. Creators must pay both the employer and the employee's share of Social Security and Medicare taxes. While this adds additional pressure, contributing to retirement accounts can help reduce your taxable income and soften the impact. The other thing is some of these retirement plans can also be used for contributions to help manage your tax brackets, your marginal income tax rates. There's also platform risk and burnout. Um, and I'm sure people have seen this where videos just stop disappearing, a logarithm shifts, audience migrates, and creative burnout is real. So relying on your content forever is risky. Retirement savings helps you kind of put maybe a little bit of a backstop. Might give you some options if you ever need to step back to take away from full-time content creation. Um, these realities mean retirement planning is actually not only much more urgent for creators, it's actually going to probably be more difficult. So you're going to have to address these challenges head on, and hopefully you can turn some unpredictability into some long-term financial security. Retirement accounts available content creators. One of the first things we've got is something like a solo 401k. Contribution limits up to 69,000 in 2024, and 50 plus are able to have additional up to in 50 plus contributions is both the employee salary deferral and the employer profit sharing. So this is going to depend on how your business structure is set up. Flexibility, you can also have both a Roth after tax and a traditional pre-tax. So around, say, am I going to be in a higher income tax bracket when I'm retirement, or a lower income tax? By far, the majority of people end up in a lower tax bracket, but we never know where someone's going to end up. Um, Best for high income earners, creators who want to maximize savings, especially irregular income. If your regular income is exceeding 80,000 a year, a YouTuber making 120K could put away 40K into a retirement in a good year. Contribution limits: 25% of net earnings, max 66,000 in like a SEP or simplified, what's called a SEP IRA, is a simplified employee pension plan. How this works is you get to put up to 25% of your net earnings, which is a formula you need to go through and calculate. Um, this is pre-tax only, and it lowers your taxable income today, but you actually pay taxes when you pull the money out in retirement. This is best for like middle income creators who want a simple, low maintenance plans without the annual paperwork. Someone making 60,000 could contribute up to 15,000. It really kind of depends on how consistency your income is. I'm not a big fan of the SEP IRAs. There's a lot of cheap 401k plans out there for the solo 401k players that can do. There's also the traditional, the Roth, and defined benefit plans. But it really kind of depends on the situation that you're in. Um, Especially if you're going to be growing your business, or you're only solely if you're going to have other employees with you. So you need to think about, what am I going to be doing now, and what am I going to be looking where am I going to be growing into the future. um, Traditional and Roth IRA plans, contributions of 7,000. These are just a simple. You can open up these at any brokerage account. They're pretty simple to start up. For you and your spouse, contributions of 7,000 in 2024. Traditional IRAs deduct contribution today and pay taxes later. Roth IRA, pay taxes now, but withdrawals in retirement are tax free. These good for beginners or younger content creators who are just getting started out, that you got a little bit of money that you want to put away. You're not on something where I have a consistency and I need to put money away, that I'm in a higher tax bracket. A TikTok creator earning 30K a year could put 6K into a Roth IRA, even if it's their only account. A good thing is to start small with an IRA. You're new to retirement savings. Once your income grows, you could upgrade to a solo K or SEP IRA, 401k or a SEP IRA contribution limits, and you can roll the accounts into a single 401k into a single IRA to start managing. Retirement account, find it for creators, kind of give you an idea. I got a little chart here. We got solo 401ks, SEP IRAs, traditional IRAs, Roth IRAs. This is just some limits for 2024. You're going to need to check the updated limits, 25 and 26. Make sure to review. You can this on the IRS website. You're self-employed for eligibility for the solo 1K, no full-time employees. A SEP IRA, self-employed, any income. A traditional IRA, and you can also do, getting back here, you can also do a traditional 401k plan that's really pretty easy to manage. There's some expenses on that, but it depends on how big your business is and how many employees you're getting. Um, they're really pretty simple. A lot of the companies have them set up. They're pretty easy to take care of these days. Tax treatment, a solo 401k is pre-tax or a Roth. A SEP IRA is pre-tax. A traditional IRA is pre-tax, and a Roth IRA is post-tax. How you make the contributions, and there are also the 401k plans out there that companies offering 401ks for small businesses that you can easily look up line, and they typically do either a 401k with a Roth or a traditional or a Roth options. So get out there and shop around a little bit on those. So it kind of depends on some marginal tax rate planning. I always suggest working with someone that's a professional who's got a lot of experience to be able to work with you to decide kind of what actually physically run some numbers, what might work best for your situation. Um, for example, the Soro 401ks are good for high earners who want max contributions. A SEP IRA, like a mid-income earner. A traditional IRA is somebody who's just getting started for lower income earners and planning withdrawals. A solo 1K is moderate, require a little bit of requirement to set up. A SEP IRA, pretty simple. A traditional IRA is pretty simple. The same with a Roth IRA. Flexibility, solo 1K probably has the highest, or a traditional 401k or a solo 1K. Especially if you have a spouse that gets involved with your business or employees, you start going to traditional 401k. SEP IRAs are kind of medium. Traditional IRAs are low, and Roth IRAs I would put right with a traditional IRA. Just a little more calculation of they're about the same for the Roth and the traditional. Um, Budgeting for retirement income or regular incomes. Remember, make sure to pay yourself first. Treat retirement like a non-negotiable, but instead of saying what's left, send them to automatic transfer rate of 5 to 10 to 20%. Whatever it is directly into your retirement savings account. This way you can start putting a little bit away for yourself in case before I start building your wealth. Um, if you're a high income earner, you might be able to take and put a larger chunk away, 34% of a windfall. You might be saving for a house, and you also want to, you're like, okay, we got a down payment on a house. Now we start increasing our savings into our retirement accounts. It's once again, it goes back to authentic goal setting, but trying to strategizing how much of my income's gonna, what are my incomes gonna look like, and what are my goals gonna be, because that help drives what some of you're gonna do. Building a retirement buffer account instead of trying to contribute directly during low months. Maybe you maintain a separate holding account to like a buffer fund. I've got some other account videos on budgeting so that are going to be different for creators, because you've got a lot different budgeting that's chunky compared to someone that's on a bi-weekly paycheck that's or a monthly paycheck that they're on a W2. um, Framework for your regular income. You've got your taxes, your retirement savings, your emergency funds, your business expense, and your living expenses. And it also depends on how you have your business set up, as a sole proprietorship. Are you set up as a corporation? Are you an S corp, LLC? How are those businesses set up, and how are you going to be able to use that? Can take and affect some of your budgeting framework and how you would set up and do that. Use an annual view, not just monthly. Set an annual retirement savings goal of, let's just say, 12,000 a year. Break it down into quarterlies or monthly targets. Track your progress and cumulative, so that January is a slow month. Maybe March is a strong, and you're still on track. So use two checking accounts, one for business and one for personal. Try to keep those separate. So start having your business and your checking. It makes it easier for expenses. Um, Extra cash stays in the business account for taxes and retirements, and you can also start creating a little financial stability even during uneven income times. Balancing taxes and retirement planning. For creators, tax and retirement planning are going to go hand in hand, because every dollar you contribute to a certain retirement account only builds future wealth, but it also lowers your tax bill. This is one of the questions you're going to say, hey, what am I marginal tax rate and marginal tax rate planning? This is one of those things where I'd want to work with someone that's a qualified financial advisor who also has software that can help me model out taxable distributions and what I think my tax profile is going to look, not only during my working years, but also during my retirement years, because There's actually you do not want to be paying a lot of taxes now if you're going to be in a much lower tax bracket in retirement, or maybe you're going to be in a higher tax bracket in retirement. It also depends on a state you live in, and it depends on your income. Your income can also be chunky. So the goal is to try to figure out how can I end up saving my money on my taxes to have some lifetime income smoothing and lower my marginal effective tax rate for my life. Chooses a Roth versus a traditional. Let's just take a little bit. Contributions to 401k or SEP IRA help reduce your taxable income. Example: if you're a YouTuber and you're making 80,000, putting $15,000 into a SEP IRA could potentially lower your income to 65,000. That could drop you into a lower save you thousands in taxes. But once again, is when the money comes out, it's going to be taxed to the tax rate when you pull the money out at retirement. Um, Choosing a Roth versus traditional based on your tax outlook. Roth contribution, pay taxes now, grow tax free forever if you're great in a lower tax bracket and expect to be in a higher income tax bracket later. We also have traditional contributions. You want to deduct taxes now because you think you're going to be in a much lower tax bracket and retirement. Think of it this way. Roth, you pay the taxes on the money now on the seed, and the traditional, you pay the taxes on the harvest. And so it's two different points in when you're going to pay the taxes. So it's going to get taxed, and you're kind of playing a tax arbitrage game. If it was the same tax rate on putting it in and pulling it out, it really doesn't make that much difference. So it's one of those things that you need to do a little bit of planning on where you're going to be. And that's once again where you want to work with someone that can have some tax software that you can do, financial planning software to go out and do some marginal planning into the future on what you individually think will happen, because it's something that some people may try. Some people go, I'm going to go all with the traditional. Some people go, I'm going to go all with the Roth. Some people do a mix. This is something you're going to need to take and strategize in your own individual situation. And this also depends on your income, your spousal incomes, household incomes, and where you are in states. So there's not one answer on that. Avoid tax surprises by planning ahead. Set aside and 25 to 30% of every payment you receive, split into two buckets: tax savings and retirement contributions. Operate, you might even consider something like, someone might actually consider opening something like a savings account, so that separate savings account, one is for tax savings and one is for retirement contributions. Balancing the retirement means to keep an eye on your money and invested for long term, and so you're not scrambling at tax time, and you actually can go in and work with your tax professional a little earlier, so that you can say, hey, we're coming into November, we're going to end of tax years in December, whenever your tax year is, and I'm going to start strategizing on what I can do to manage my taxes this year or next year to save myself a little bit of money. Protecting yourself beyond savings, your health and individual business owners, you're going to have your health insurance and your HSAs, which some might be a health savings account, depends, or a comprehensive plan, because you really don't have health insurance. You have to go out and buy it in the marketplace. We're seeing some possible increases in the marketplace now. Most saving accounts, a lot of young people are really popular with that, with a high deductible plan and HSA. Make sure to have the emergency funds, because we can always have some volatility in there. Content creators might also look at some disability insurance, liability, and then life insurance really comes around if someone's might be looking at if they have heirs. I hear everyone say, I like to view life insurance as I view life insurance for a couple of positions. If you have people that need money in case you die, then you have benefits like children, then you and a spouse, it doesn't work, and you're the sole income earner, then something like a life insurance large enough to be able to fund them is something that's very important. But if you're also at the point of saying, okay, I want to have a whole life insurance type policy and I need to have that, the question is, do I have the question you start asking is, that is more of an estate tax and a buy-sell agreement type description for some of the stuff. And that's where I'd want to work with someone that was like a fee-only planner to go out and find out something like that, because that gets into a much more complicated spot where anyone starts looking at a whole life type insurance policy on that. It's just there's a lot of different tools in the toolbox these days. They are something that can definitely be used in a buy-sell agreement if you're in a couple of different content creators. That's something that there are buy-sell agreements and business use insurance that I think is something that can be very well thought of, can be part of a business plan. So retirement isn't just about saving money; it's about building your safety net and keeping your long-term plan intact. So no one matter what the algorithm throws at you, how much should creators save for retirement? Kind of some general benchmarks here, just some. About age 30, have about 1 time your annual income. About 40, about 3 times your annual income. 50 about 6 times, and 60 about 8 to 10 times. So if you earn about 60,000 by by age 40, you want to have about 180 saved. How much should content creators contribute annually? A good start, 15 to 20% of your income for creators with a regular income. Instead of flat monthly contribution, you might take a look and set a goal for a year, because it's not as easy to say, hey, if I'm a biweekly paycheck, it's pretty simple to set it on auto pay with some fixed cost. If my income is a little more chunky, maybe I want to look at maybe a biannual or an annual amount that I put in. If I have a little bit extra in a really good month, that I can put the money away, but the next month might be a little leaner. Um, Traditional versus contribution, quick decision guides. Expect to earn more later in your career. You might consider a Roth. Want a tax-free withdrawal in retirement, then you'd probably look at something like a Roth. Are you in a lower tax bracket now? Then something like a Roth might make sense. If you need an immediate tax deduction, that might make a lot of sense. Then probably you're going to look at something like a traditional deposit. If you're in a higher tax bracket in working years and you're going to be in retirement, something like a traditional 401k that is tax deferred might work a little better. And if you want options to access contribution early, you're going to have something like an IRA. Um, Many self-employed and creators use a mix of both Roth and traditional over time. This kind of gives you flexibility to have some different options of what you're going to do, because we really don't know what the future is going to bring. Don't just discourage them. Take away from the benchmarks. Starting now and build consistency. Take a look at an example mid-level content creator. Let's say Alex is a 29-year-old content creator. He runs a YouTube and Patreon channel, brings about $60,000 in per year after expenses. Like many creators, Alex's income fluctuates. Months are 8,000, other months he can barely cover the bill. So he might have an estimated income, have 30% set aside, about $18,000 separate for tax savings account. The remaining 42,000 is for living, retirement, business, and investment. He might open something like a SEP IRA account to manage for flexibility, contribute 20% of net income throughout the year, especially loading contributions during high earning months, and contribute to reduce taxes income to 48,000, saving about 2,400 in federal income tax. And then it depends if you live in a state with a state income tax or no income tax. He might actually build up a little bit of an emergency fund, about 10,000, about 4 months of living expense, and use something like a high yield savings account or um, a yield money market account to protect against income loss in case of just to be able to have some money and interest while it sits there. Protect against insurance risk. You might have a purchase a marketplace health insurance plan with an HSA high deductible plan for future medical costs. If someone is if you're a female woman that's thinking about maybe you're a family, you might consider even a family. You might consider looking at a comprehensive plan to take a look at, make sure planning in for future costs for amount of birth. If you're going to have childbirth, take a look at that, how much your plan is going to cost out of pocket on that. And then maybe you might look at disability and protection against income loss of accident or content creation. Um, and then long-term investment strategies. I know a lot of people should go and make sure you have your investment policy statements. Let's say Alex in this kind of invests with a SEPR IRA, and he contributes to his investment policy statement, and his profile puts him to a 70% stock index fund and 30% bonds with a long-term goal, a low cost, something like low cost index funds in a asset allocation that's based off of his investment policy statement. And he set some goals to increase that contribution like 2 to 3%. Even if the diversified portfolio, he does a low cost target date fund that has his retirement date as an example. Current savings rate about 20% of net income. Projected retirement savings, let's say he's expecting at about a 7% growth of about 1.3. So even with his irregular income, Alex has a tax plan, a retirement savings, and savings nets, financial safety nets put in place. So you don't really need to have a six-figure income. It's more about having some base things in place just in case stuff happens. Long-term benefits of retirement planning gives you a little bit more side and say, okay, I don't have to work forever and keep creating forever. Maybe you want to. That's up to you. Building wealth now means you can pivot later. So maybe you've built up a large enough X-aid. Maybe you want to go into a different project or a different passion project or work part-time doing something else that doesn't require you being a full-time content creator, or if that's what you want to do. Platforms can change, and this is one of the things I think may be the biggest ones. Platforms, the logarithms, sponsorships disappear, Social Security, and also Social Security was never designed to replace a full income. It was designed to replace about a 30% of the income. and some other things. Is Social Security, I think, is going to be there, but and it's political decisions whether or not it's funded at 100%. Right now, the Social Security Trust Fund is funded to be able to 2020 to 33 to fund it about 80%. So I would pretty confident if you're doing some retirement planning and you're paying into your Social Security, expect to be about, I would plan with about 80% until that's what we are now. The question of whether or not it is fully funded is simply a political question of whether or not they are going to be tackling some very high income earners or how they choose to fund that. But for now, the trust fund may run out, but there's going to be people paying into the fund to be able to pay about 80% of the promised benefits. Um, so it kind of gives you an idea that there's going to be some different things there. Um, Retirement planning gives creators one thing for every the power to choose, which is what a lot of people don't have, and the power to do some different things. Um, I would second recommend, taking a look and understanding, look at type of different type of retirement accounts that you might be able to open up. That would be a Roth, a traditional SEP, an IRA, or a solo 401k, or a traditional 401k, depending on how many employees you have. If you don't have employees, even small ones, start contributing and putting money away. Save more on high income months and review and adjust every year. And if you need to, go talk with a certified financial planner, someone that has the professional planning software and can help you guys do out if you feel like you're overwhelmed. There's also a lot of great videos online. Don't overthink it. The hardest part is starting. Opening an account is about $100 transfers. Get you further. Even that first $100 transfer gets you more than for 90 further than 90% of creators. So you actually are on a career path. It's not a traditional path. It's something that's new that hasn't been out there before. So set aside some consistent so think about, as a content creator, would want to set aside consistent savings, using tax advantage and planning for the long term, because content creators has to be their own individual boss. And plan for their own retirements, and use investing to try to save and put yourself for you can be, have a little more freedom later in life. So thanks a lot. Hopefully this helps. Thanks a lot for going with me this far, and I'm going to let you guys go. Thanks a lot.